What if the silence I've lived in for 12 years could shatter the illusions I've clung to about my family? I'm Vivian Hargrove, 68, widowed, and profoundly deaf, since a progressive loss stole sound from my world. My late husband William and I built a real estate empire worth $80 million, a legacy now managed from my Manhattan penthouse, where I sit in my favorite armchair, the golden sunset streaming through towering windows, casting long shadows across marble floors. My silver hair catches the fading light as I trace the edge of an envelope that arrived today. Confirmation of an experimental surgery to restore my hearing, scheduled for tomorrow with Dr. Nathaniel Chen. Not a soul in my family knows. My daughters, Brooke and Tessa, have grown distant, their visits laced with impatience, their gestures patronizing. Ruby Diaz, my housekeeper of 30 years, is my only true confidant, her hands dancing in American Sign Language as she sets a teacup before me. I sign to her, my movements precise. I need to tell you something important, but you must promise absolute secrecy. Her kind eyes widen and I hand her the envelope, revealing my plan. I'm having surgery tomorrow. It might restore my hearing. Ruby gasps, reading the medical documents, but I insist on secrecy, even from my daughters. I have my reasons, I sign, a shadow crossing my face as I recall their recent eagerness to discuss my estate. The intercom buzzes, interrupting us. Ruby checks the monitor and sighs. My daughters and their husbands, here early for dinner. I tuck the envelope into my desk drawer, smooth my cashmere sweater, and brace for their arrival. The elevator doors open, and Brooke, 41, strides in with her designer handbag, her husband Pierce scanning the room like an appraiser. Tessa, younger and hesitant, waves faintly, while Griffin, her husband, eyes my art collection. Brooke mouths "mother" with exaggerated clarity, a habit I find patronizing. I've mastered lip reading over the years. I nod, scribbling on my notepad. Lovely to see you all. Dinner is ready. Ruby gestures toward the dining room, where her roast, made from my recipe, waits. As we move, I catch Pierce and Griffin exchanging glances, their shoulders tense, smiles forced. Something's brewing, and I sense it's tied to my wealth, not my well-being. Dinner unfolds with familiar tension. My family chats among themselves, tossing me simplified comments, assuming I'm half aware. I nod, scribble responses and watch their lips, catching fragments of their plans. Brooke mentions my Hamptons properties, suggesting they're a burden. I write, my management company handles everything efficiently. Pierce leans in, his corporate smile gleaming. Wouldn't it be easier to transfer some properties to Brooke and Tessa? For tax purposes, of course. My suspicions solidify. This is about control, not care. I write a vague promise to consider it, noting Pierce's relief. Later, fetching wine from the kitchen, I pause behind the swinging door, unseen but watching through the crack. Brooke slumps, sighing. God, this is exhausting, having to speak so slowly. Pierce loosens his tie. If we get the Hamptons houses in your name before she changes her will, that's $5 million each minimum. Griffin nods, chewing dessert. She doesn't even understand half of what we're saying. Tessa looks uneasy, but stays silent. My heart constricts. Betrayal, stark and undeniable. I steady myself against the wall, Ruby appearing at my side, her eyes concerned. I'm fine, I sign, retreating to my bedroom, my mind reeling. Alone, I sit at my vanity, staring at my reflection. A woman who built an empire with William, raised 2 daughters, and adapted to silence with grace. But now, a new resolve hardens in my eyes. Tomorrow's surgery isn't just about hearing, it's about uncovering the truth. My deafness, long my vulnerability, might become my greatest weapon. I set my alarm to vibrate at 5 a.m., the surgery at 7:30. By tomorrow, I'll hear the world again, and my family won't suspect a thing. Let them scheme, whisper, underestimate me. Soon nothing will escape my notice. I slip under silk sheets, a determined smile forming. Not the polite one they expect, but one of quiet defiance. Tomorrow begins my silent revolution, a strategic stillness to reveal who my family has become in the shadows of my presumed weakness. The vibrating alarm jolts me awake at 5 a.m., its insistent buzz against my wrist, pulling me from a restless sleep filled with fragmented dreams of William's face and my daughter's whispered schemes. I lie there for a moment, the silk sheets cool against my skin, staring at the ceiling where shadows from the city lights dance like ghosts. Last night's revelations replay in my mind with brutal clarity. the way Brooke slumped in her chair, her words forming on her lips as I watched from the kitchen door crack. God, this is exhausting, having to speak so slowly and write everything down. It's like dealing with a child. Pierce's casual loosening of his tie, his mouth shaping the plot. If we can get the Hamptons houses in your name before she changes her will again, that's $5 million each minimum. And Griffin, shoving dessert into his mouth, his lips curling. Did you see how confused she looked? I bet she doesn't even understand half of what we're saying anymore. Age and isolation haven't been kind. Tessa's uncomfortable glance, her weak defense, she's still sharp, don't underestimate her. Only to be scoffed at by Brooke. Oh, please. She's a lonely old woman who can't even hear. How would she know what we're planning? Pierce has been moving money from her smaller accounts for months, and she hasn't noticed a thing. The pain hits fresh, a sharp ache in my chest as if hearing those words anew, though of course I didn't hear them. I read them on their lips, pieced together from years of practice in a silent world. But the intent was unmistakable, the betrayal a knife twisting deeper than I imagined. I think back now, in the quiet pre-dawn, to signs I dismissed before. Like the time 2 years ago when Pierce insisted on updating my power of attorney, his smile too smooth as he claimed it was for emergency efficiency, and Brooke nodded along, her new diamond bracelet glinting under the lights. A piece I later learned cost $20,000, far beyond their reported income. Or Tessa's hesitant requests for loans to fund Griffin's failing ventures, always framed as temporary, yet never repaid. Her eyes avoiding mine as she scribbled notes instead of learning sign language like Ruby did. How many times did I overlook their impatience, attributing it to busy lives rather than greed? William would have seen it sooner. He always had a keen eye for opportunists in business deals. But I've been too trusting, too isolated in my silence, believing family bonds were unbreakable. No more. This surgery will change everything, arming me with the one thing they believe I lack. Awareness. I rise, my bare feet silent on the cold marble, and move to the bathroom, splashing water on my face, the droplets a tactile reminder of the world I've navigated without sound. Ruby is already up, her presence announced by the vibration of her footsteps as she enters with a light breakfast tray. Tea, toast, fruit, her face etched with worry from last night. I sign to her. I'm ready. Let's go soon. She nods, her hands replying, Of course, Mrs. Hargrove. The car is prepared. Are you sure about keeping this from them? I pause, then sign back. More than ever, after what I saw last night, they think my deafness makes me helpless. Soon, I'll prove otherwise. Ruby's eyes soften with understanding, and she helps me dress in simple, comfortable clothes. A soft blouse, slacks, low heels, nothing to draw attention. As we prepare, I add details I didn't share before. The specific amounts they mentioned, the offshore accounts Pierce hinted at, the way Griffin's eyes lit up at the prospect of millions. Ruby gasped silently, her hands signing furiously. That's theft. You must tell Stanford. I agree, already planning to contact my attorney post-surgery, but for now, the focus is on this step toward reclamation. We slip out quietly, the penthouse elevator descending smoothly, and step into the waiting car. Ruby drives, the city awakening around us in visual bursts, streetlights fading, early commuters hurrying, the skyline sharpening against the rising sun. Without sound, the world feels muted, but my mind buzzes with new resolve. I imagine what it will be like to hear again, the engines purr, tires on asphalt, perhaps even birds in the park. But more than that, to catch their unguarded words, to expose the full extent of their manipulations. What else have they hidden? Have they forged documents? Bribed managers? The thought fuels a quiet anger, mingled with sorrow for the daughters I raised to be better. Brooke, always ambitious like William, but twisted into entitlement. Tessa, sensitive, yet swayed by others' greed. I lean back, closing my eyes, visualizing a future where I confront them, my voice steady, their faces paling as realization dawns. The Hamilton Clinic appears on the outskirts, a sleek building nestled among trees, its exclusivity a comfort. Ruby parks, and we enter the pristine lobby, the air cool and sterile. A nurse leads us to the prep room, where I change into a gown, the fabric crisp against my skin. Dr. Nathaniel Chen arrives, his face kind, lips moving clearly. We're ready, Mrs. Hargrove. Count backward from 10. I nod, lying on the table, the surgical cap tucking my silver hair. As anesthesia warms my limbs, my thoughts linger on last night's betrayal, how it propelled me here, transforming vulnerability into strategy. The world blurs. 10:9:8. Darkness claims me, but hope flickers within, promising a dawn of truth. I awaken hours later in a private recovery suite. Afternoon sun dappled through blinds, my head bandaged, a peculiar pressure in my ears. Ruby sits nearby, her book set aside as I stir. She signs, "How are you feeling?" Before I respond, Dr. Chen enters, his voice, his actual voice, reaching me, muffled like underwater. The procedure went extremely well. I stare, tears welling. I can hear him. The hum of air conditioning, the rustle of his coat, beeps from monitors, sounds lost for 12 years flood back. "I can hear you," I whisper, my words slurred from disuse. Dr. Chen smiles. "Excellent. The microchip implants and nerve therapy took effect immediately. Sounds will clarify as swelling subsides." Ruby weeps joyfully, and I instruct her again, not a word to anyone. They must think I'm still deaf. As Dr. Chen explains care instructions, avoid loud noises, gradual reintroduction, I marvel at this miracle, my mind already weaving plans to use it against the betrayals I've uncovered. The recovery suite feels like a sanctuary. The soft afternoon light filtering through the blinds in patterns that dance across the white walls, a visual symphony I've grown accustomed to in my silent years. But now, everything is different, profoundly, miraculously so. Dr. Chen's voice lingers in my ears, muffled yet real. As he continues his explanation, the sounds will be muffled for the next 24 to 48 hours. As the swelling decreases, clarity will improve dramatically. By this time tomorrow, you should be experiencing about 70% of normal hearing capacity, and within a week, we expect that to reach 90% or higher. I nod, tears streaming down my face unchecked, overwhelmed by the ordinary noises that have burst into my world like long-lost friends. The gentle beeping of the monitors, the whisper of air from the vents, even the faint squeak of Dr. Chen's shoes on the linoleum, each one a revelation, a thread reconnecting me to a life I thought forever severed. "I never truly believed," I whisper again, my voice strange and uneven after years without auditory feedback, slightly too loud, the words slurring at the edges. "Even when I decided to do this, I never really thought it would work." Dr. Chen pats my hand gently, his touch reassuring. "The technology has advanced tremendously in recent years. Your type of hearing loss was particularly suitable for this procedure." As he adjusts a monitor and leaves with promises to check back later, I turn to Ruby, who stands nearby, her face a portrait of joyful astonishment, tears mirroring my own. "Oh, Mrs. Hargrove," she says aloud now, forgetting for a moment our old habits, her voice a warm, familiar timbre I haven't heard since before my hearing faded completely. It's the first time I've truly heard her speak in over a decade, and the sound, rich with her slight accent from years in Mexico before coming to America, brings fresh emotions surging through me. We embrace, her weathered hands clutching my shoulders, and I pull back to speak. "Remember, not a word to anyone about this. As far as my family knows, I've been visiting my sister in Chicago." Ruby nods solemnly, her eyes searching mine. "Of course, but may I ask why?" "This is miraculous news. Wouldn't your daughters be happy for you?" I hesitate, the betrayal from last night still raw, like an open wound. Based on what I overheard at dinner, I'm not so sure. I need time to understand exactly what's been happening behind my back. She frowns but accepts it, helping me sit up as the room's sounds continue to unfold around me. The distant chime of an elevator, the soft clink of medical instruments in the hallway, even the rustle of my own gown as I shift. That night in the clinic, under observation, I lie awake despite the mild discomfort from the bandages, my brain indeed working overtime as Dr. Chen warned, processing this influx of sensory input. The steady hum of the building's systems becomes a lullaby of sorts, but my thoughts race ahead to the penthouse, to Brooke and Tessa, to Pierce's calculating whispers about moving money from my accounts. How much have they taken already? I recall snippets from their conversation. Pierce has been moving money from her smaller accounts for months, and wonder about the specifics. Perhaps it started small, a test to see if I'd noticed discrepancies in statements I reviewed visually, trusting their explanations scribbled on notes or mouthed with feigned patience. William would have caught it immediately. His sharp business acumen was legendary, spotting fraud in deals before ink dried on contracts. I miss him acutely now, imagining his deep voice advising me, trust but verify, Viv. In the quiet hours, I formulate my initial plan. Return home tomorrow, feign continued deafness, and observe. Ruby will maintain our signing routine in front of others, and I'll use provided hearing aids as a disguise, removing them during family visits to sell the illusion while secretly absorbing every word. Morning brings discharge, a small bag of medications in hand, anti-inflammatories, eardrops, and strict follow-up instructions. Ruby drives me back, and I marvel at the rediscovered auditory landscape. The purr of the engine, a sound I associated with vibrations before. The whoosh of tires on asphalt, rhythmic and soothing. The click of the turn signal, sharp and precise. The world feels alive, layered with an auditory palette I'd resigned myself to forgetting. Your daughter's called the house phone twice, Ruby mentions, her voice clear through the car's quiet interior. I told them you were still with your sister and would be home today. Miss Brooke seemed particularly interested in when exactly you'd return. I nod, gazing at the approaching skyline. The city William and I conquered together, rising like a monument to our shared ambitions. I'm sure she was, I reply, my tone laced with irony she catches, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. Arriving at the penthouse, I carefully remove the hearing aids before entering, tucking them into my pocket. To the world, I'm still deaf, reliant on lip reading and notes. But beneath, I'll catch every nuance. Ruby and I settle in the living room, the familiar space now enriched with subtle sounds, the tick of the grandfather clock, the faint hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. Ruby, I say, testing my volume control, I need you to act exactly as before. Continue signing. Have me write notes occasionally when others are present. Nothing can seem different. She agrees, though her frown deepens. For how long? Until I discover the full extent of what my family has been doing. Pierce mentioned moving money. I need to know everything. That afternoon, I call Stanford Walsh, my longtime attorney, his voice a gravelly comfort over the phone, a device I haven't used properly in years. I reveal my hearing restoration, swear him to secrecy, and explain my suspicions, the overheard plot twisting in my gut as I recount it. I want a complete audit of all my accounts, properties, and holdings. I instruct firmly. Discreetly. If anything has been moved or accessed improperly, I want to know. Stanford's tone turns grave. I'll have my team start immediately. If Pierce Westfield has been embezzling, we'll find the evidence. I add, and prepare to change my will. But don't file it yet. Keep the document safe until I say. As Stanford departs after his visit, his tall frame stooped slightly, wire-rimmed glasses adjusted with care, I sit in William's old study, fingers tracing the mahogany desk where we planned our empire's expansion. Oh, William, I whisper, startled by my own voice's clarity, what would you make of all this? The intercom buzzes, Ruby's voice announcing, Miss Brooke and Mr. Westfield are here. I remove the hearing aids quickly, compose my placid expression, and respond deliberately loud, send them in. Brooke sweeps in, impeccably dressed, air-kissing my cheek with her overpowering perfume. Mother, how was Chicago? We were worried. I scribble, lovely visit, my sister sends her regards. As I write, I hear her impatient sigh, the tap of her nails on her phone, her whisper to Pierce. Let's make this quick, I have a charity luncheon at 2. The small revelations sting, confirming the facade of concern. Pierce settles in, enunciating, we've been going over business portfolios. Some properties aren't performing well. I tilt my head, feigning confusion, and write, which properties? His reply is smooth, but I detect the tremor. The downtown buildings and Hampton's houses. Profitable assets, I know, yet he pushes for transfer. I write vaguely, noting his jaw tighten at Stanford's mention. After they leave, promising Sunday dinner, I replace the aids, the world sharpening. They're trying to take everything, Ruby, I say quietly. Not just money. They want properties transferred before I change my will. She nods grimly as I pace, a bitter smile forming. Little do they know the changes have begun. As the evening deepens, I stand at the penthouse window, the city lights twinkling below like scattered diamonds. A visual feast I've always appreciated, but now accompanied by the faint hum of traffic rising from the streets. A soundtrack to my churning thoughts. Ruby brings a cup of tea, the clink of the saucer against the side table crisp in my ears, her concerned breathing audible as she lingers. They're planning more than I realized, I murmur, turning to her. Pierce's voice had that tremor when he mentioned the properties. He's lying about them underperforming. She nods, her face a map of loyalty etched over 3 decades. What will you do? Watch and listen, I reply, slipping the hearing aids back in to amplify the world's nuances. That night, as I lie in bed, the forgotten symphony of nighttime envelops me. The steady tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway, the soft whir of the climate control, an occasional car horn piercing the distance. These sounds, once resigned to memory, now fuel my strategy. I recall William's lessons in negotiation. Knowledge is power, Viv. Always know more than they think you do. My family assumes my isolation has dulled my edge, but this auditory rebirth sharpens it like never before. Sunday arrives with a pristine blue sky, the gentle breeze rustling the ornamental trees on my terrace, their leaves whispering secrets I can now hear. I awakened to birdsong filtering through the window, a melody I'd forgotten in its purity, followed by Ruby's soft footfalls as she prepares breakfast. Each sound is a gift, reconnecting me to the vibrancy of life. At my vanity, I apply makeup with precision, my reflection showing a woman of 68 with silver waves and smooth skin, lines around my eyes telling tales of joy and sorrow. Ruby calls from the doorway. Stanford is on the phone. He says it's urgent. I reach for the receiver, reveling in this simple act. Phone calls, once impossible without text relays, now mine again. What have you found? I ask, voice measured. Stanford's response comes clear, tinged with anger. It's worse than we suspected. Pierce has been systematically transferring funds from your investment accounts to offshore holdings for the past 14 months. Small amounts initially, but increasingly larger sums. The total is just over $2 million. My hand tightens on the phone, but I remain composed. Documentation? Irrefutable. He used your power of attorney, claiming renovations that never happened. And my daughters? A pause. Brooke co-signed on several large transfers. Tessa's name doesn't appear, but that doesn't mean she's unaware. The cold weight in my stomach confirms my fears. Brooke, my ambitious eldest, actively participating in theft from her own mother. Hope withers that she was merely influenced. This is complicity. I've prepared the new will, Stanford continues, and documents to revoke Pierce's power of attorney. I can bring them tomorrow for signature. Excellent. And the trust restructuring? Complete. You can modify distributions at discretion. After hanging, I sit motionless, absorbing the betrayal's depth. Not just Pierce, the opportunist who married into wealth, but Brooke, raised with values William and I instilled, now eroded by entitlement. Ruby approaches with tea, her concern palpable. Bad news? Confirmation of theft. $2 million, Ruby, stolen while I lived in silence. Her hand on my shoulder offers comfort. What now? Watch, listen, act when ready. The family arrives at 4 for Sunday dinner, a tradition intensified since William's death. Tessa and Griffin first, with wine from my cellar. Likely borrowed before. Mother, Tessa mouths, hugging perfunctorily, her new diamond earrings catching light, purchased no doubt with pilfered funds. I scribble. Lovely to see you both. Make yourselves comfortable. As they move to the living room, I overhear their whispers. Did you talk to Brooke about the offshore account access? Griffin urges. Tessa nods. She says everything's on track. Once Mom signs the property transfers, we'll have leverage for the bigger accounts. Good. The business loan is due next month. We're $300,000 short. Pain strikes anew. Tessa aware, planning to benefit, even if not stealing directly. Brooke and Pierce arrive 20 minutes later. Brooke in a $5,000 outfit, Pierce with a leather portfolio. Paperwork, I suspect. Mother, she exclaims, air-kissing. I've brought the property documents. Simple signatures. I smile placidly, scribbling. After dinner, enjoy family time first. Pierce's expression tightens. Of course, no rush. At the table, dynamics clarify without deafness's veil. Impatient glances when I misunderstand. Griffin's condescending explanations. Tessa's bored phone checks. So, Mother, Brooke begins, enunciating. Have you thought about the properties? I tilt my head. Right, which properties? Her smile strains. The underperforming ones for tax relief. I nod slowly, then scribble. Stanford mentioned they're profitable. Reactions ripple. Pierce's fork pauses. Brooke's smile freezes. Alarmed glances exchanged. Stanford isn't privy to all details, Pierce recovers. I've managed them directly. They're liabilities. I detect his elevated breathing, the lies tell. I write. Interesting. Stanford showed income reports, $7 million last quarter. Silence falls, Brooke sipping wine excessively. These details must be confusing for you, she says, condescension dripping. I maintain serenity, scribbling agreement while simmering inside. Pierce produces documents post-main course. Simple transfer for tax advantage. I examine slowly, spotting deceptions, not just discussed properties, but additional commercial buildings and my Vermont lake house. These include more than we discussed, I write. For maximum benefit, he smiles. I'll have Stanford review tomorrow. He's coming at 9. Tomorrow? Brooke sharpens. These need filing Monday for quarterly advantage. Such urgency for routine, I note, watching discomfort mount. Griffin shifts topics awkwardly. The garden looks beautiful. Those rose bushes must have cost a fortune. Boldly, I write. Speaking of money, has anyone seen my investment account statement? Stanford mentioned discrepancies. Atmosphere turns glacial. What sort? Pierce clears his throat. Missing funds, I scribble, gaze unwavering. Brooke laughs lightly, misunderstanding. Pierce handles meticulously. Move to higher yield accounts, he adds. Of course. I write politely. The evening ends early with excuses. As they leave, I turn to Ruby, inserting aids. Did you hear? Every word. They're scared. Good. From the terrace, I overhear Pierce's sidewalk call. She knows something. Accelerate the plan. Move the rest this week. Grim smile forms. They're scheming. So am I. Stanford arrives next morning with folders. Evidence conclusive, he says, spreading statements. Systematic draining, pattern building to larger thefts. Brooke signed 4 $100,000 transfers. Pain courses, but I sign revocations steadily, reclaiming power. New trusts place allowances under my control. Cars, cards, properties revocable instantly. New will directs bulk to charity, modest trusts for daughters at 60 or emergencies. What now? Stanford asks. Wait for the perfect moment to reveal the truth. Nothing will be the same. 3 days blur into a whirlwind of discrete activity. My penthouse, a command center where Stanford's team pores over digital trails like detectives unraveling a complex web. All while my family remains blissfully unaware, their texts and calls probing my Chicago visit, with feigned concern that now rings hollow in my ears. I maintain the facade through brief messages. Home safe, all well, giving no hint of the seismic shifts. Account locks changing, access protocols tightening, new trust structures snapping into place like fortified gates around my empire. Each revelation from Stanford's audits deepens the wound. Another transfer traced to a Cayman Islands shell company, Brooke's elegant signature looping across forged renovation invoices, the total embezzlement creeping toward $2 million as more threads unravel. I pace the study, William's portrait watching with what I imagine is quiet approval, his painted eyes seeming to say, "You've got this, Viv. Show them the Hargrove steel." The pain of betrayal mingles with a steely resolve. This isn't just about money, it's about reclaiming the dignity they stripped from me, one overheard slight at a time. Wednesday brings my 1-week follow-up with Dr. Chen, Ruby driving through midday traffic where horns blare like accusations, each sound a testament to my secret victory. In his office, the test results astonish him. Remarkable, you're at 95% capacity across frequencies, a miracle for someone deaf so long. I nod, hands folded calmly. The sounds are clearer than I remember. He explains neural adaptations, but my mind drifts to the sounds I've heard at home. Pierce's urgent whispers, Brooke's condescending sighs. Have you told your family? He asks. Support is crucial. Not yet, I reply evenly, waiting for the right moment. As we leave, Tessa waits in the lobby, pacing like a cornered animal, her face a mask of daughterly worry that crumbles under my scrutiny. Mother, we've been trying to reach you all day, she exclaims, exaggerating for lip reading. Worried. I tilt my head, pulling out my notepad. Routine checkup. Nothing to worry about. Relief floods her features, but I hear the underlying tension, not health concern but fear of complications to their plans. In the elevator, she presses. Brooke and I called. Ruby said doctor's appointment. Is everything okay? Her voice trembles slightly, a quiver I'd have missed before. I scribble calmly. All fine. But inside I note her surreptitious glances, her influence from Brooke evident in every hesitant word. At the penthouse, she declines tea, fidgeting. Just checking you're all right, and if you've looked over Pierce's property documents. I write, Stanford advised against transfers. They'd benefit you, not me. Her smile falters. That's not true. For your benefit, taxes, less management. Experts who recommend offshore hiding? I scribble, gaze steady. Color drains from her face. I don't know what you mean. Deliberately. Stanford found the missing money, Tessa. $2 million by Pierce with Brooke's signatures. She whispers, forgetting enunciation. I had nothing to do with that. Their idea. Griffin and I just needed a loan. We'd pay it back. Panic laces her tone, guilt evident. I write, we'll discuss Friday night. Family dinner at 7. Ensure everyone attends. She nods jerkily, texting as she leaves, alerting the others, no doubt. Ruby approaches. She looked terrified. She should be, I say, removing aids now we're alone. They all should. Thursday passes in preparation, reviewing Stanford's dossiers like a general studying battle maps, every unauthorized transaction a marked enemy position. I schedule reversals ready with one call, property access changes for Saturday. By Friday afternoon, the stage is set. Ruby prepares an elaborate dinner, my signature roast, sides from old family recipes, the table gleaming with fine china under William's watchful portrait. At 7, Ruby announces, they're here all four. Arriving together. I smooth my sapphire dress, steel in my eyes, show them in. Remember, until my signal, I'm still deaf. They enter hesitantly, confidence replaced by wariness. Brooke's grip white-knuckled on her bag, Pierce's smile strained, Griffin and Tessa uncomfortable. Mother, Brooke greets exaggeratedly, kissing my cheek. You look lovely? Special occasion? I smile enigmatically, scribble. Family is always special. Eat first or business? Glances exchanged. Pierce, perhaps clear the air first. Misunderstanding about finances. I gesture to the living room, documents arranged on the coffee table. As they sit, I hear accelerated breaths, Brooke's heel tapping, Pierce's whisper to Griffin. Let me handle this. Pierce launches his rehearsed pitch. Stanford misinterpreted movements, legal tax havens, funds positioned for investments, every penny accounted for. I watch him passively, then write, and the $2 million? Capital for opportunities. He replies smoothly. Brooke adds earnestly, we'd never harm you, Mother, protecting the legacy. I scribble, then review documents together. Alarm flickers. Pierce, complex, confusing without background. Try me, I write challengingly. For 20 minutes, he weaves convolutions, digging deeper with each lie. I remain silent, absorbing. Finally, I stand, pour scotch from William's favorite decanter, savoring the amber liquid's burn. Ruby from the doorway, shall I serve dinner? I sip, then speak clearly. Not yet, Ruby. We're getting to the interesting part. Shock ripples. Eyes widen, Brooke's mouth opens, Pierce freezes. Griffin stands, then sits awkwardly. Mother, Tessa whispers. You can hear? Perfectly, for over a week, I reply calmly. Every whisper, plan when you thought I couldn't know. But how? Brooke stammers. Experimental procedure, microchips, nerve therapy, revolutionary. And you didn't tell us? Accusation in her tone. Why? So you'd be careful? So Pierce could scheme from afar? He tries. This seems suspicious, but explain. Enough. I cut off sharply. I've heard your plots, discussions of properties, calling me confused. I've listened to you plan theft. Turning to Brooke. Complaining about communicating with your deaf mother, how inconvenient, eager to sign over so you don't pretend to care. Her flush. Not fair. Out of context. Am I? Stanford documented 67 transfers, $2.3 million, 43 with your signature, Brooke. To Tessa and Griffin. You knew, planned to leverage for accounts, cover your $300,000 loan. Tessa cries. We were desperate, would have helped openly. You could have asked, I soften slightly. I'd have given legally, without lies. Silence descends. Pierce, what now? I fold hands. As of morning, changes. Pierce's power revoked, $2 million recovered. New trusts, allowances, cars, cards, properties under my control. Cutting us off? Brooke incredulous. Effective immediately. Cars collected tomorrow, cards deactivated, codes changed. You can't, Pierce protests. Rights, resources you stole. Fortunate no charges, Stanford advised it. Griffin, punishing all for their actions. You knew, benefited. I moved to the window. For 12 years, I trusted you'd honor our legacy. Instead, opportunity from disability. Facing them. Learn self-support. Jobs, earn your way. Demonstrate change in a year, perhaps reinstate inheritances. Emotional blackmail, Pierce stands. My money, I counter calmly. Earned with William, you tried to steal. To the dining room. Dinner's ready. Stay or leave, your choice. Dynamics changed permanently. How we proceed is up to you. I walk on, head high, hearing their stunned silence behind me. Without waiting for their decision, I settle at the dining table, the aroma of Ruby's roast filling the room, a comforting anchor amid the storm I've unleashed. Behind me, the living room hangs heavy with silence, broken only by the shuffle of feet and muffled whispers. Brooke's sharp intake of breath, Pierce's low mutter. This changes everything. We need to regroup. Tessa's soft sobs punctuate the air. Griffin's awkward attempt to console her with a pat on the back that sounds hollow even to my newly attuned ears. Part of me aches at the raw emotion, remembering the girls as children, their laughter echoing through our first modest home before the empire grew. But sympathy wars with the fresh scars of their deceit. They've treated me as an obstacle to wealth, not a mother deserving respect. Eventually, Pierce and Brooke depart with curt goodbyes, their footsteps retreating to the elevator like defeated soldiers, while Tessa and Griffin linger, joining me at the table with plates half-eaten, the clink of silverware strained. "Mother, please," Tessa ventures, her voice thick. "We can explain." I raise a hand, speaking evenly. "Not tonight. Eat or go. Tomorrow brings consequences." They stay briefly, the meal a farce of normalcy, before excusing themselves, leaving me alone with Ruby, who clears dishes quietly. "That was brave, Mrs. Hargrove," she says. "Necessary," I reply, the weight settling as adrenaline fades. The morning after dawns, crisp, autumn sun streaming unforgivingly through windows, illuminating dust motes like floating accusations. I sit at the breakfast table, the gentle clink of my teacup a now familiar comfort, the rustle of the newspaper as I scan financial headlines, ironic given the personal fiscal upheaval I've orchestrated. Ruby enters, her steps deliberate. "Stanford called. Security changes complete. Company cars retrieved from Mr. Westfield and Mr. Clayton." "Thank you," I say, folding the paper. "Any word from my daughters?" Miss Tessa called twice, quite upset. Miss Brooke sent a text, rather terse. Unsurprised, I nod. Last night's revelation shattered their illusions as surely as my surgery shattered mine. Pierce's composure cracked first, his protests revealing the strategist unmasked, while Brooke's incredulity masked deeper fear of a life without the cushion of my fortune. Tessa's tears seemed genuine, perhaps the seed of remorse in her softer nature, but time will tell. "Now we wait," I tell Ruby. "Adversity reveals character. They've never known it. Perhaps it's overdue." Weeks unfold as anticipated, the penthouse a vantage point from which I observe their unraveling through Stanford's reports and occasional overheard calls. Discreet, of course, with aides amplifying distant voices when they visit nearby or phone Ruby. Pierce cracks quickest, his luxury facade crumbling. Car repossessed, cards declined, club membership lapsed, each loss a blow to his ego. I imagine his tailored suits hanging unused, his charm curdling into desperation. 3 weeks post-confrontation, Brooke appears unannounced, her designer attire swapped for simpler clothes, makeup less polished, a subtle shift but telling. "Mother," she begins, settling on the sofa, "I've come to apologize." I regard her silently, letting discomfort stretch, the tick of the clock marking seconds like judgments. "What happened with the accounts was wrong," she continues, strained. "I shouldn't have signed those documents. Pierce convinced me. Temporary strategic repositioning." "Why?" I ask simply. Her composure wavers. "It was easy. We'd grown accustomed to a lifestyle, and Pierce threatened to leave without the money. Our marriage struggled. It held us together." The confession hangs, absent true remorse for the betrayal itself. Sorry for consequences, not the act. "Where's Pierce now?" "Gone," she bitters. "Left last week. Said without your money, no point staying. 20 years, reduced to that." Sympathy stirs despite everything. No mother wishes her child such hollow unions. "I'm sorry your marriage ended that way." "Are you?" she challenges, defiance flickering. "Isn't this what you wanted? Punishment?" "No," I reply calmly. "Honesty, respect, a family valuing me beyond money. This is consequence of your choices." Her shoulders slump. "I need help, mother. I've never supported myself." Behind entitlement, vulnerability glimmers unseen in years. Stanford arranged an entry-level position at Hargrove Properties. Assistant in marketing. Modest pay, no special treatment. Report like everyone. Work for the company as an assistant? Incredulous. "Earn your way," I correct. "Understand honest work. Appreciate what William and I built." After a long moment, reluctant nod. "When?" "Monday, 8 sharp." As she leaves, I ponder if pride will deter her, but Monday brings Stanford's call. Brooke arrived, 15 minutes late but present. a small step forward. Tessa and Griffin's path differs, their agency facing bankruptcy without my infusions, the loan looming like a guillotine. 2 months later, Tessa arrives exhausted, dark circles framing her eyes. We lost the business, she admits. Bank foreclosed last week. Sorry to hear, I say sincerely. Their venture, naive, was at least creation, not mere extraction. Griffin's interviewing. Got an offer yesterday. Not much, but a start. I've started freelance web design, building a portfolio. Pride surges at her resilience. Commendable, both of you. We've downsized, apartment, sold stuff. Humbling, clarifying. Looking up, remorse raw. I'm so sorry, Mom. Not just schemes, but taking you for granted, seeing you as money source, not person. The mom touches deeply, sincerity cutting through. And how we treated you after hearing loss, impatient, no sign language, path of least resistance, unfair. Life gives second chances rarely, I soften, squeezing her hand. Wise sees them. Months weave a new pattern. Brooke excels in her role, charm and connections, aiding marketing, hard work earning respect from skeptical colleagues, a trait dormant since childhood. Tessa and Griffin struggle practically but bond stronger. Visiting for advice, not aid, rebuilding on respect. Pierce fights back, hires attorney claiming assets via marriage, dismantled by our prenup. Threats follow, met with my resolve until he vanishes to Dubai, charming anew. 6 months on, I invite daughters for private dinner. No husbands, no Ruby, just us Hargrove women. I cook myself, roast sides, skills dormant but reviving. Delicious, Mom, Tessa warms. Forgotten how amazing. Your father bragged to associates, Brooke adds, softening. Proud of everything. We built together, I say, memories warming. From one building to empire, ambition over sense. Over dessert, I study changes. Brooke's brittle edge softened by accomplishment, Tessa's anxiety to calm assurance like William's. Something to tell you, I say with coffee. Another will change. Tension. Not what you think, I smile. Reinstated inheritances with conditions. Bulk to foundation, but trusts for security, not excess. We don't expect, Tessa starts. I know, that's why. You've grown, earned trust. Tears in Brooke's eyes real. Thank you for not giving up. I blamed you, but you were right. Needed wake up. Never gave up, I reply. Needed to see beneath entitlement, for you to see too. Talk lightens, Brooke's promotion, Tessa's business, Griffin's adjustment. Laughter flows, ease absent for years. After they leave with hugs, promises, I stand on the terrace, Ruby joining with shawl. They've changed, she observes. On better path, I agree. And you? Considering city sounds, horns, music, leaves, I pause, whole for first time in years. 6 months have passed since that transformative evening on the terrace. The city sounds a constant companion now. No longer novelties, but integrated threads in the fabric of my daily life. The penthouse feels lighter these days, unburdened by the shadows of deceit, though the journey hasn't been without its echoes of pain. Brooke's promotion came as no surprise. Her reports from Hargrove Properties filter through Stanford, detailing how she's channeled her natural charisma into genuine contributions, closing deals on marketing campaigns that once would have been handed to her on a silver platter. Colleagues speak of her dedication, late nights poring over strategies, a far cry from the entitled daughter who once viewed work as optional. Tessa's freelance business has blossomed modestly, her designs gracing small company websites. Each project a building block of self-reliance she shares during our weekly calls I now cherish for their authenticity, free of hidden agendas. Griffin, too, has adapted to his corporate role, his updates laced with humor about office politics, a humility that suits him. Their apartment, though small, hums with purpose, as Tessa describes over tea, the scent of home-cooked meals, laughter over budget triumphs. Pierce's absence is a closed chapter, his threats fading like distant thunder, Stanford's defenses holding firm against his grasping attempts. Yet, not all days are serene. There are moments when doubt creeps in, whispers of, what if they revert? But evidence mounts otherwise. Brooke's unsolicited apology letters, handwritten and vulnerable, detailing her therapy sessions to unpack years of dependency. Tessa's initiative in volunteering at a hearing loss support group. Inspired, she says, by my story, though she still believes it untold beyond us. Ruby notices the change in me too, my steps surer, my laughter freer, as if the weight of silence and suspicion has lifted entirely. "You've rebuilt more than hearing," she observes one morning over breakfast, the clink of her spoon in coffee a punctuation to her wisdom. "Family, too," I nod, gazing at the skyline William loved, feeling his presence in the empire's steady pulse. The foundation thrives, its charitable arms extending to causes we champion together. Education, arts, now expanded to auditory research, culminating in today's event. The Hargrove Center for Auditory Restoration stands gleaming on a bright spring morning, its modern facade nestled in a green suburb, funded wholly by the foundation to offer Dr. Chen's procedure to those without means. Journalists, medical professionals, and patients gather, the air buzzing with anticipation, cameras flashing like fireflies. I stand before them at the podium, the microphone amplifying my voice with a clarity that still thrills me, the crowd's murmurs a backdrop symphony. Brooke and Tessa sit front row, their proud smiles genuine, applause ready in their hands. Ruby dabs her eyes nearby, her handkerchief a small flag of emotion. My own journey from silence back to sound taught me many things. I begin, the words flowing steady, each one weighted with the path I've walked. Chief among them is that while hearing connects us to the world, understanding connects us to each other. Sometimes we must lose something precious to recognize what truly matters. I pause, letting the sentiment settle, memories flashing. The envelope's arrival, that first overheard betrayal, the surgical awakening, hidden observations building to seeds of doubt, the gathering storm of evidence, and the dramatic revelation that shattered illusions. The dinner table tension, my voice breaking the facade. "I can hear you perfectly." Their shocked faces, the cutting off of financial lines that forced growth from ashes. In the silence, I learned to listen. I continue, voice softening. In the listening, I found my voice. And in finding my voice, I transformed not just my own life, but the lives of those I touch, not through wealth or power, but through the courage to face truth, whatever it reveals. The crowd nods, some wiping tears, patients in wheelchairs or with canes leaning forward, hope etched on their faces. Dr. Chen stands beside me, his kind eyes crinkling as before, a partner in this miracle. As I cut the ceremonial ribbon, flashbulbs pop, the snip of scissors sharpen my ears, applause thunderous. A cacophony I once couldn't fathom, now embracing every nuance, every individual clap contributing to the whole. Just as I now see my family clearly, not perfect, wounds still healing, but transformed by truth's crucible. Brooke approaches after, hugging me tightly, her whisper clear, "Proud of you, Mom." Tessa joins, her embrace warm. "This is incredible, what you've built." We stand together, the three Hargrove women, bonds reforged stronger, free of money's taint. Ruby beams from the side, her loyalty a constant through it all. Somewhere, I feel William approving, his spirit in the breeze rustling banners, the distant birdsong a melody of peace. The irony isn't lost on me. My deafness, once vulnerability, became salvation, revealing hard truths, forcing choices that healed. Revelations came not in thunder, but whispers, teaching that true listening involves the heart. As the crowd disperses, patients touring the facility, I linger, gratitude swelling for the unexpected journey. Silence revealed what words hid. Truth hurt, then mended. Love remaining, tested and true, stronger than deception could destroy. The ceremony's applause fades gradually, a wave receding from shore, leaving behind a hum of conversations and footsteps as attendees mingle around the Hargrove Center's lobby, their faces alight with possibility. I step down from the podium, the ribbon's remnants fluttering in the breeze, and embrace Brooke and Tessa, their arms around me a tangible proof of bridges mended, not perfectly, but with care. "This place, it's going to change lives, Mom," Brooke whispers, her voice steady now, free of the brittle edge that once defined her. "Like you changed ours." Tessa nods, squeezing my hand. "We're so proud and grateful for everything." Ruby approaches, her eyes still misty, handing me a bouquet from the staff. The flowers' scent mingling with the fresh paint of the facility. We pose for photos, the flashes less intrusive than celebratory, capturing a family reborn from trial. As the event winds down, patients approach tentatively. A young mother with her deaf child, an elderly man sharing his story of isolation. Each interaction a reminder that my personal miracle extends beyond these walls, touching lives I may never fully know. In the months leading here, the paths to this redemption unfolded with quiet persistence, each day a step away from the confrontation's raw edges. Brooke's journey at Hargrove Properties surprised even me. Starting as an assistant, she tackled menial tasks with a determination I hadn't seen since her teenage years, when she'd help William file papers in our home office. Reports from her director praised her innovative pitches, drawing on social connections not for personal gain but company growth, securing a major client that boosted quarterly revenue by 15%. She visited weekly, our conversations evolving from tense apologies to shared memories, like the time she confessed over tea. I used to resent the business for taking Dad away, but now I see it as our legacy. Working there, it's like reconnecting with him and with you. Her therapy unraveled layers of insecurity rooted in William's death and my deafness, which she'd viewed as abandonment rather than shared grief. Pierce's departure left scars, but she bloomed in independence, renting a modest apartment, budgeting meticulously, even cooking meals from old family recipes Ruby shared. "I don't need the extravagance anymore," she'd say, a soft smile breaking through. It was never fulfilling. Tessa's growth manifested differently, more introspective, her freelance work gaining traction through word of mouth, designing sites for local nonprofits that aligned with her emerging values. The bankruptcy hit hard. Their agency's closure a public humiliation, but it forged resilience. Griffin traded entrepreneurial dreams for a stable sales position, his evenings spent studying online courses in finance, vowing to rebuild wisely. They downsized to a cozy one-bedroom, where Tessa described hosting simple dinners, laughter echoing over thrift store finds. "We argue less now," she admitted during a park walk, the birdsong around us a fitting backdrop. Adversity showed us what's real, each other, not the stuff. Her volunteer work at the support group became a passion, teaching basic sign language to families, inspired by regrets over never learning it for me. "I took your strength for granted," she said tearfully one afternoon. "Watching you adapt to silence, it taught me to adapt now." Griffin joined occasionally, his humility evident in apologies delivered with sincerity. "I was part of the problem, pushing for easy money. Won't happen again." Their marriage strengthened. Date nights turning to budget picnics, dreams shifting from luxury to legacy, planning a family with grounded hopes. Pierce's shadow lingered briefly, his Dubai exploits filtering through mutual acquaintances, charming another widow, schemes unchanged. But his irrelevance grew, a footnote in our story. Stanford handled residual legal ripples with ease, the prenup a shield William insisted on years ago. Through it all, Ruby remained my anchor, her insights during quiet evenings affirming the changes. Miss Brooke laughs more genuinely now, Miss Tessa carries herself taller. My own days filled with foundation oversight, collaborating with Dr. Chen on center protocols, ensuring accessibility for all. Auditory therapy sessions honed my skills, but the real therapy was familial. Dinners where stories flowed without undertones, holidays planned with joy, not obligation. This center symbolizes it all, innovation born from loss, second chances from silence. As we drive home, the city unfolding in auditory splendor, tires humming, radio faintly playing, I reflect on the irony. Deafness unveiled truths, hearing restored connections. My family, tested, emerged wiser, our bonds authentic. Gratitude fills me for the envelope that started it, the whispers that enlightened, the voice I reclaimed. And as the sun dips lower in the sky, casting a gentle glow over the city that William and I once conquered together, I find myself lingering on the terrace once more, the evening breeze carrying whispers of leaves and distant laughter from the streets below, each sound a soft reminder of how far we've come. The Hargrove Center stands as a beacon now, not just for those reclaiming their hearing, but for anyone seeking to listen more deeply to the quiet truths within their own lives, where betrayal can give way to understanding and isolation to warmth shared among loved ones who have learned to value one another beyond the material veils that once obscured their hearts. Brooke and Tessa, with their husbands in tow on better days, visit often these times, our conversations stretching into the night like extended melodies, filled with plans for the future that feel grounded and true, no longer shadowed by the greed that nearly unraveled us all. Ruby moves about the penthouse with her usual grace, her presence a constant comfort, as we sip tea and reflect on the small miracles. The way a daughter's hug lingers a moment longer, or a shared story brings tears mingled with smiles. In this peaceful unfolding, I reassure myself, and perhaps you too, that healing arrives not in grand declarations, but in these tender, unhurried moments, where the world slows to a hush, allowing the heart to speak its softest wisdom. As the stars emerge one by one, twinkling like forgotten promises now fulfilled, I close my eyes and listen to the gentle rhythm of my own breathing, fading into the night with a whisper of contentment. All is well, in silence and in sound.